In this video, we're going to use the sine rule to calculate an angle. In the last video, we looked at using the sine rule to calculate the length of a side. Here, we're going to calculate the size of an angle. We've got one example. I'm going to ask you to copy this down with me, and then use that to try and have a go at the questions that I've set. Okay, so our example is calculate the size of angle ACB. Now I'm going to ask you please to copy this triangle down. So we want to calculate the size of angle ACB. That means that we're starting at A, going towards C, then finishing at B. So that means that the angle is at C. So the angle that we're looking for is angle C. I'm going to call that X. So we are using the sine rule here. It won't immediately be obvious in an exam paper to use the sine rule, but today we're just going to look at the procedure and make sure we can use the sine rule. The sine rule is given to you on your formula list. It is A over sine A equals B over sine B equals C over sine C. So before we go ahead and start using this formula, we need to label the lengths of the side. So angle A across from angle A is side A. Across from angle B is side B. Across from angle C is side C. Once we've done that, we can tick what we know. We know side A, side C, we know angle A, and we want to work out angle C. We don't know anything about side B or angle B. So we can omit this and proceed with these other two. So we'll substitute in our values for A. So it's going to be 25 over sine 60 degrees is equal to 20 over sine x degrees. So here we've just substituted in our values. When we wanted to calculate the length of a side, we essentially made x the subject of the formula. It's going to be kind of similar here, but our goal initially is that we want to make sine x the subject of the formula. And there's a wee bit of work involved in order to do that. Essentially, we want to get to a situation where we've got sine x equals. At the moment, sine x is on the denominator. So to remove it from the denominator, we'll need to multiply both sides by sine x. We do that because this sine x would simplify with this sine x, and I would have 25 sine x over sine 60 equals 20. Okay, so we've now removed the sine x from the denominator. Remember, we want to make sine x the subject of the formula. At the minute, it's being multiplied by 25 and divided by sine 60. So we're going to need to multiply both sides by that sine 60. We do that because this sine 60 would simplify with this sine 60. And we've done the same to both sides, so the equation is still balanced. So we're going to get 25 sine x degrees is equal to 20 sine 60 degrees. Remember, the goal is we want to make sine x the subject of the formula. It's now being multiplied by 25, so we will divide both sides by 25. And then we're going to get to the case where sine x is indeed the subject. So 20 sine 60 degrees over 25. At this stage, you get a few options. I would probably type the right hand side into a calculator because that's just going to give me a number. So you're going to do 20 sine 60 divided by 25. Make sure in your calculator you're closing any brackets. When you do this, you should get a number that is 0 point something. I'm getting 0.6928. But what I've worked out here is I've worked out the sine of the angle. I want to work out the angle. So in order to work out the angle, to work out x, I've now made sine x subject to formula. To work out x, I'm going to do sine inverse of both sides. So it's going to be x equals sine inverse of 0.6928. To type that into my calculator, I'll just do shift sine and I'll just press the and button. I wouldn't clear my screen. And that should come out to be 43.85. And if we're doing that to one decimal place, that's going to be 43.9 degrees. Okay, we're working at a length here, so our angle, or so our unit is degrees. So just to clarify what I've done here, we're using the sine rule. We label the opposite sides with the lowercase letters of the angle. We tick what we know and highlight what, or question mark what we want to work out. We can eliminate the fraction that we don't use. Then from there, we just need to proceed and make sine x the subject of the formula. And the steps for doing that are kind of laid out here. You just need to take your time. There is a wee bit more working involved when you're working with an angle compared to working with a side. Hopefully that was helpful, and it will give you a good wee framework and model to work with when you're working through the questions today. Thank you very much.